So without any further delay, I want to welcome HGTV star and Harris Real Estate University student Collette McDonald to the call. Welcome, Collette.
Thank you. It's so flattering, and I'm so excited to be here because I think one of the best things that we can do for each other as real estate agents and students of your university is to help motivate others. And I'm so excited and flattered that you asked me to be your first superstar interview this year.
Well, I think you're the perfect person because from our conversation yesterday, and as all these guys are about to learn, you are very motivational naturally. And Collette, I have to tell you, this time of year, this is just an inside little, tip from Julie and I from having coached thousands of realtors for a long period of time. This type of year is the hardest time for agents because most of them are so lacking in motivation. They're only operating on 2 or 4 of their 8 cylinders if you're lucky. And I know that's not the case for you. So you and I will have to definitely take this call to the next level so we can excite them and motivate them. Agreed?
Excellent. I am excited about that challenge.
All right, good. So first of all, let's just clear the air about a few basic things. Where do you sell real estate? How can they get hold of you if they wanted to send you a referral?
I am in Atlanta, Georgia, and the Atlanta metro area is absolutely huge. I have a team of agents that work with me to help cover Georgia. I work for RE/MAX Greater Atlanta in Atlanta, and you can actually reach me by going to my website, just my name. It's ColletteMcDonald.com. So that's ColletteMcDonald.com. And my phone number, yep.
Sorry, no, I was going to say you have a great website. I've been to your website. Agents, you guys should check that out. It is a very, very professional website. Definitely looks clean, very well organized. Look at a lot of agent websites every day, and that's probably one of the better ones I've seen. Sorry, and your phone number?
It is 404-384-0850, and that is my cell. And, Julie, I will let you know I'm doing better this year as picking up my phone every time it rings.
All right, you got it. I love that report.
All right, good.
Keep up the good work.
So, Collette, how long have you been a Harris Real Estate University student? I don't think you've been enrolled that long, have you?
No, I've actually been a real estate university student for 2 years. I changed from Coldwell Banker to RE/MAX, and at that time I was struggling a little bit. I actually was on Valerie Fitzgerald's Superstar interview you had 2 years ago, probably in February. And I was really impressed. I was impressed with Valerie. I was impressed with the format, and I wanted to get a little more techno-savvy. So I signed up for the tech workshop, and subsequently I changed over to short sale. Now I have short sale and REO. I listen to my daily motivational calls that you guys put out. I appreciate those. I follow through with those. I listen to Superstar interviews. I try to do my homework for each class. I have had so much success with the short sale class in actually saving deals for me. One of the key things that I just talk to agents all the time in my marketplace is about the short sale program, the QWR information. I actually saved a seller who I wasn't representing from foreclosure by telling the listing agent about QWR. It's just fantastic. So that's my plug for you guys.
Want me to tell you something funny about QWR?
Yeah.
All right, so this is absolutely true, and I'm not going to expose who asked me not to do that anymore. But I actually had an executive at one of the major servicers who we know tell me that his boss asked him to ask me to stop talking about QWRs.
Yeah.
You think I'm going to do it? Yeah, no. I mean, in select cases, as long as it's not abused, it works. But but as far as short sales go, I mean, I'm sure you've noticed too, and I'm hearing lots of great feedback from our students that short sales are definitely, especially through Bank of America, are definitely getting easier and better. So I'm very optimistic about a lot of the changes in short sales we're really going to make. We were hoping last year was going to be the year of the short sale, but I think indeed this is the year of the short sale. So speaking about short sales, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that's the key to your programs. What I love about them is that they're constantly updated. You are getting the new information immediately when it's happening, and it puts us above the rest as students of yours out in the marketplace. We just look smarter.
I appreciate that. I really do. We put a lot of effort into that. So let's talk about your specific real estate market. This is a question I always like to ask students because it's kind of interesting, I think, for everyone else to hear so they can kind of relate to the fact that you're, in many cases, you kind of walk the same path as a lot of the other students have. Agents that maybe just joined HREU, they need to understand that you've been there, done that too. When did in Atlanta, in your specific market in Atlanta, did you feel a huge shift, say back in 2007, 2008? Was there a huge shift?
Yeah, that was the time that I think that the first shoe dropped, and it was just the bottom out. That was a scary year for my business in 2007, 2008 time period. And I can look back on my numbers and really see how my income dropped in half, and it was a shocker. And we had to build up from the last few years to get back to the levels that we're at. But I'm at a level now in my business in Atlanta that I'm seeing that we don't have the foreclosure inventory in specific hyper-local markets that we had last year. We've actually, it's calmed down. Now that could be, shadow inventory that everybody talks about, but I'm also looking at the folks that are in default mode, and we've got a great program here in Atlanta. We've got a company called HREU that takes all the information from the courthouse, from the newspapers, and brings together in one format on a website that shows us people who are in default. And I'm seeing in certain marketplaces a huge amount of people outside the city. There can be 300 defaults in 1 mile, but you come into the city in the hyper-local neighborhoods and markets, and you might have 2 within a 3-mile radius. So it is hyper-local in the Atlanta market. It's different everywhere, but you can see where the new build construction was in the metro area of Atlanta that we still have a high number of defaults. Not as many foreclosures yet, but a high number of defaults.
You bring up something, you said like 3 or 4 things that really I hope agents are paying attention to. The first thing is that even when you sell in a large geographic area or a really steady large geographic area like you do, there's still going to be pockets of housing that are doing really well regardless. So that's the first thing, and I'm going to underline that point by saying know your market, know your stats, know what's selling. When you hear these big general sweeping terms about, some people are speculating, I'm sure you've heard this too, Collette, that the real estate values in the country are going to drop by another 20%. Some people say 5%, 10%, 20%. But understand, even if there are areas in the country that drop by 20% in 2011, there are going to be areas that don't drop at all and maybe even appreciate, okay? So you got to know your market. That's what I heard her say. And the other thing I heard her say, which I thought was kind of interesting, and this is definitely true as well, is that there are a ton of people that are defaulting, millions of people that are defaulting. I came across a website yesterday. I was going to blog about this, but I'll get the URL now because I thought it was really interesting. Let me find it. Ways Home interactive presentation, and it was done by Fannie Mae. And so I went through the interactive presentation yesterday, done extremely well, I have to say. One of the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have got such good media consultants that the stuff is just phenomenal. It really goes through the process of explaining to the homeowner who's, considering walking away, struggling to keep the house, not sure what to do, or someone who's basically, somewhere in the middle. You can kind of go there and it walks you through the different scenarios. But I'll tell you what my big walkaway was from going through the presentation and reading the website. They are absolutely positively no longer trying to, scare people out of keeping their homes, but they're anticipating more people doing strategic defaults. When you go to that website, that is going to be your big takeaway as well. What they're trying to do is trying to get people to stop doing simply strategic defaults and trying to get them to do strategic short sales. Go to that website, guys. That's coming from Fannie Mae, essentially from the government, because the government owns Fannie Freddie, right? To Colette's point, know your market, know what's happening, know where the shift is going to be, know where the opportunity is going to be. Less REO inventory because the banks are putting less of it for sale, and they're definitely going to try to deal with the problem head on through short sales. So, Collette, were you one of the first agents in your marketplace to start embracing sort of the distressed end of things with short sales?
2 years ago, I took my first short sale designation, and I can still remember it. It was just eye-opening, and I was just amazed that the banks would pay our fees, and it was such an easy way for these clients to get out and how you negotiate through a short sale. And I was excited about it, and I remember talking to some agents in my office who might be listening to this call right now, that they were like looking at me like I was crazy. Like, why would you want to deal with this? And it's so frustrating. And granted, 2 years ago, it was frustrating. But a few tips that I got from my instructors and subsequently through the courses I've taken from y'all is that, hey, this is a great business because you get to control it. You get to go into these people and help them, and that's what agents, and this is another philosophy that I believe in, that you all believe in, is it's our responsibility as realtors to help the marketplace, to help save these folks from throwing it into foreclosure and keeping the market, the numbers down. We've got to go out there and get these guys to understand default. So, yeah, when I first started this, people thought I was nuts, and honestly, a couple of the transactions I did, I thought I was nuts as well because it was difficult and it was time consuming. And I wanted to scream at the negotiators. I wanted to scream at my clients. I wanted to kick my own dog. It was hard. But the thing that I've discovered is, and I think that a lot of us in this business understand, is that you go through the motions, even if it's frustrating, even if you don't close on a deal, you learn something. So even if you have a failure, you're learning something so that the next time it's going to be a lot easier. And now 2 years later, I see the information that we're getting. I see how attorneys are embracing it, how attorneys have started up programs where they'll help you negotiate your short sale. They won't take any of your commission, but they'll help you get the foot in the door with the bank. I've seen things that the banks are doing that are assisting in it. So there's still a lot that we have to do, and it's not easy, but the satisfaction that I get when I help my client not get foreclosed upon, walk away, feel the pride of not having to deal with a foreclosure, that's all I need. And I've got to tell you, I get recommendation letters that I put in a file format in my office, and it's a thank you note format that I don't necessarily put them all on my website because sometimes they're very personal, but I just leave them in a folder. And when I have a bad day or if I'm depressed or, I'm not feeling the love from my clients, I'll go in there and I'll just look back and I'll say, you know what, I really helped Terry Smith. She thought she was going to get foreclosed upon in a week. I really helped this woman. So that keeps me going. And I do enjoy it. And I'm teaching some folks in my office how to help me do it. And we're going after the short sale business strong and hard.
Well, 2 years ago, knowing it maybe in most markets was almost optional. But now, to your point, if you're going to be doing business, you have to know how to do short sales. It's no longer an option. And the interesting shift that Julie and I have seen happen certainly the last 24 months is that realtors who didn't know how to do it or had a mindset about doing it or who just, for whatever reason they just refused to learn anything new, they've been forced to make a decision, either stay in the real estate business and do short sales or get out, because they were going on listing presentations. They were running into seller after seller that was upside down or about to be upside down if their market depreciated anymore. And if they didn't know how to do short sales, they were not taking that listing and they weren't getting paid. And as far as having a third party negotiate your short sales with you, I'm just going to kind of edit that a little bit. You got to be, and it sounds like you've got some great people, but you got to be very, very careful who you use with that. And if you're getting started doing short sales, we strongly suggest that you go through the process at least once or twice yourself, or at least work with a negotiator who is going to let you kind of ride shotgun with them through the whole process so that you can understand it. You really do need to understand it. If for no other reason, you can explain it more thoroughly to your seller, because your seller is going to want to know. So I think it's no big secret that in about 30 days, Julie and I are going to announce that we're working with a third-party negotiator. We have no financial interest whatsoever in you guys using them or not. It's just somebody that we trust and somebody that we have a lot of confidence in. So more information will be coming on that, hopefully by the end of this month, if not into the following month. So you said something, Collette, which I really liked. I wrote this down, actually. You said basically mindset. You were talking about the mindset that you have to have now in this marketplace with regards to being of service to others versus maybe the previous mindset, which was more about helping people make money. Tell me about that mindset. Help the agents listening now and in replay to adopt that mindset.
Well, when I first started in this business, I didn't want to start in this business because I came from an executive background and a corporate background. And my father was a real estate agent, and not his generation, but this generation, when I came into it 9 years ago, I really looked at the real estate agents as kind of like the salesy sort of Herb Tarlick from my favorite 80s sitcom WKRP in Cincinnati, or the tuition agents, the folks that just need to sell one or two houses to pay their kids' private tuition. And I didn't want to be one of those agents. My philosophy was, I got out of corporate America because I couldn't fire my clients. I had to work for basically the devil and continue working to get a paycheck. the thing about being a realtor is if you take the mindset and the philosophy that you're out there to help people, which you truly are in this market, which is a huge opportunity for people who think like we do, that you can actually help people. Everything that you give back, I firmly believe you get in return without asking for it. That is a core philosophy of my business. You know, people sometimes do free agent or buyer seminars and different things. I agree with that. I agree with giving out as much information as you possibly can. But the fact that we've got so many people out there that need honest advice, not advice or a Pollyanna viewpoint of the real estate market, people who need to hear.
That's so important, Collette. Collette, that's so important. Yep.
I think that we talked a little bit about this yesterday, Tim. I think it ruins your credibility as an agent if you go in there and go, hey, it's a great time to sell, and I can sell your house in 30 days, and I'm going to make you so much more money than you thought you ever could. No, the reality of the fact of the situation is, you know what, we have to go back to when real estate agents in the early 1900s actually became real estate agents. They were thought as professionals. George Washington was actually a surveyor when he was a young man, and that was kind of considered a real estate agent. You have to go back to that mindset of you're out there to help people understand the market. It's like, would you go to a doctor? Or would you not go to a doctor when you're sick? No. Would you not go to your accountant when you needed advice on your taxes? No. You have to go to somebody that understands what is happening. What does it mean to them? Your house is an investment, and are you going to lose money, or are you going to make money, or are you going to be able to sell this house, or are you not going to be able to sell this house? You need honest, forthright advice, and that's what I see this market giving us as real estate professionals.
Well, absolutely. You know, going back to the point of having education, I know this sounds, partially self-serving, but it's so true. If you walk into a listing presentation or pick up actually it's kind of coming full circle in my mind, agents that are afraid to do lead follow-up, agents that are afraid to basically proactively go after business, and we're going to talk about your great lead generation folks here in a second. I know the agents will love all the creative ways that you've interlaced your different facets of your personal life into your business. But, when you guys find yourselves afraid to pre-qualify, afraid to go on a listing appointment, afraid to do a follow-up with a lead, it's not any more complicated than the fact that you intuitively know that you don't have the skill set yet to truly be of service to those people. That's really what it is. You're living in fear that they're going to ask you a question that you don't know the answer to, and for some reason you're afraid to say, I don't know, or I'll figure that out and get back with you. It's an interesting little twist we have going on in the marketplace. Agents that have it used to be who you knew basically would get you real estate business back in the bubble, but now it's really what you know, right? I mean, it's what you know, and when you know a lot and when you're able to help people at a high level, what's going to happen is you're going to attract other sellers to you, other business to you. When you hear us interviewing any of our top producing agents, guys, the one consistent thing that you hear is that they get a lot of referrals. Now, they're not doing some sort of complicated 14-stage follow-up plan, letters and emails and blimps over the homeowners' houses and the rest of it. They're just doing a really good job. And when you do a really good job in this marketplace and you help solve a problem, okay, that'd be selling the underwater house in most cases, or selling the house that has equity for the most possible equity and getting the seller out of the house before the price drops more. When you solve a problem, you're going to get a lot of referrals. Harris Real Estate University, that's where our main source of business comes from, other agents referring other agents to us. So I really appreciate Colette's mindset. Hopefully you guys are getting some motivation. If you have any questions, make sure you enter your questions into the webinar and absolutely positively participate. Dig deep, guys. Realize this is the start of the year. It's already started. Those of you who are conditioned to wait until the quote-unquote spring before your housing market really kicks into gear and before you really kick into gear, that won't work this year. The 2011's real estate market started like 2 months ago, whether you realized it or not. So come on, guys. Wake up. Participate. All right, so Collette, I wrote down one question, and I want to get to the lead generation stuff because I think you'd be a good one to ask this. So you're dealing with folks that find themselves in really uncomfortable, unfortunate, sometimes just plain old sad situations because of their real estate decisions, because of their upside-down home. How do you keep yourself in emotional check when dealing with those types of folks? How do you keep yourself from being drawn in emotionally into their challenges, their problems?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, it's very tough because every client that you have, you become connected with. In a short sale scenario, for the first time in our business, it really becomes less of a personal attachment and more of a business transaction. When you meet with a short sale seller, granted, you've got to understand their story, you've got to understand their hardship so that they can compile the correct type of information for the bank. But the thing is that once you get that hurdle and that sad story put forward, you can start helping to build back their motivation by saying, hey, we're going to do everything we can to get you through this so that you can move on to the next chapter of your life. Stop worrying about this. We're going to do what we need to do to get you to the next phase. And so you have them to stop being necessarily focusing on what has happened, but what they can do to help move themselves forward. And you as the agent get to help because you're step back. You're not doing open houses. At least I'm not on my short sales in most circumstances, and we can talk a little bit about why I don't do them, but you are getting all of that property information, all of that bill information, everything that you need for that bank, and that's where your energy and your time and everything is focused so that you can get that short sale package off to that bank. So you remove yourself from that day in, day out contact that you would normally have with a listing that might not be a short sale. So I insulate myself that way by making sure that all of their information is generated by them and to me in a package, and if it's not, then I cannot waste my time with that seller. That's one thing that I've learned with your short sale seminars as well as my personal business is, once you step into that relationship with that seller, if they're not serious about helping themselves, you cannot get that transaction to close. You just won't be able to.
So what I'm hearing you say basically is the way you keep yourself in emotional balance is by making sure your business stays between the lines and stays very professional. I heard you say that back in the old market, back when the market was more focused on, sort of the retail end of things, you were doing a lot of maybe marketing, open house, sort of traditional things. And now because you're dealing with a lot of short sale sellers, you can keep things much more professional, much more between the lines, like a doctor's office, basically, where they follow a very set procedure that you still are going to listen to their problem. You still have to, understand, let them know that you kind of know what they're dealing with and have been there, done that yourself. But the next stage is this is the path to follow if you want to have success with getting rid of your house, and you don't get drawn into the emotions that way. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Exactly. And the one thing I love about the scenario with short sales is that you can walk away from business, and you have to walk away from business, and your client has to know that, and you have to set that expectation with your first meeting. I always talk to my clients, even if they're not a short sale, about how I love not being in corporate America anymore. I love being a realtor because I affect my business. And if my client's not listening to what I'm saying and they want to go down a path that I don't think is great, or, between all of us, they're just jerks, I can fire them and I won't work with them. And if I fire a client, that emotional time that I've spent with them, that they have dragged me down, I usually get 2 more clients in return. I've actually looked at it. The clients that I have fired, within 2 weeks, I get 2 additional referrals.
Well, it's because you're saying that basically they were such an emotional vacuum sucking your energy away that other opportunities that were there you weren't really sensitive to because of the fact that you were so busy dealing with that problem seller.
Bingo.
Yeah. So how do you decide who to firing a seller, that's something that a lot of agents are going to be going, because sellers in most agents' minds are so precious, so hard to come by. But when you're focusing on the short sale business guys in any major market, they are everywhere, not hard to find. It's the complete opposite of what a lot of agents have kind of grown up in the industry expecting. Sellers are hard to come by, and you should treat them, when you get one, you do whatever it takes to get the listing. Now, with short sales, of course, this has been true now for like 4 years, you could be really selective on who you list. So, Collette, how do you decide who you're going to list? What are your minimum standards for a seller?
Well, the reality of the situation is with a short sale, they have to get me their package. Once I've sent them the introductory list of what I need from them, they have to get it to me within 2 weeks. And it has to be complete. And they have to have everything to me within that 2-week time frame. And if they don't, I will not take the listing because they have to understand, and I will go meet with them after they get me that packet. But when we sit down, I tell them, this is not the first part of your, this is not the only time that you're going to have to give me the same information you feel. You're going to have to fill out form upon form, and you need to understand that this is a requirement of you. I cannot do it for you, and if you don't get it back to me, I can't sell your house. So by the first blush, if they don't get that information to me, I don't list it. Now, I've actually had to fire a couple of listings this year. Number one, it was kind of a default fire because my client, they're going through a divorce. The husband actually files for bankruptcy without telling his wife. And
nice.
when he did that, I just told the wife who was divorced, and I said, I'm so sorry, but until you figure out the bankruptcy situation, I can't sell your house. I'm removing it. I'm not going to spend any more time. This and during the holidays, I had to fire a client that was not a short sale listing, but was so difficult for my buyer's agents to come and see the property. She was not letting people come in and see it, and I was spending, I've spent $1,000 on this listing, marketing it. I was just throwing good money after bad. If she won't allow these people to come in and look at it, she won't allow the counseling that I give her to sink in, I'm sorry, I can't sell that house. And if another agent gets it and sells it, great. It was meant to be for that agent. There's more than enough business out there for all of us. I just know that personally for me, I cannot spend bad money, and I've got to let it go. So that's my philosophy.
Some sellers, guys, now I'm going to take what she's saying, and I know that she knows the difference from what I'm about to give you as an example. There's a difference between a seller who's just a little bit, psychopathy, which are the ones you should fire, versus the ones that are just having a harder time of it and need a little bit more hand-holding and questions answered. So we're not giving you permission to, quote-unquote, fire or turn down the sellers that are just basically wanting you to have a little bit more control or wanting to basically help force you to become more professional, okay? So if they're making demands on you that are unreasonable, or if they're just being nasty or abusive to you, that's different than somebody expecting high standards from you. So don't use someone who's expecting you to actually do a good job with service and lead follow-up. Don't use the excuse that, that person's just too demanding as an excuse not to help them. That's not okay. You have to get better. That's, again, going back to the second or third question I asked Collette today about the mindset of service. Guys, when you go in, and you heard Collette say this, so important, and this is part of our short sale class, our accredited short sale designation short sale class, when you walk into a seller's house, or you call them ideally on the phone or call them back on the phone, you have to be very clear about what your expectations are and how they win by working with you. And if they're not willing, to Colette's excellent point, if they're not willing to follow the very simple directions of turning in paperwork, filling out form, well, then guess what? You can't work with them because you literally can't work with them. And sometimes they think they're going to shop different agents, or maybe some of them are still swimming in the river of denial, and they think that somehow they're going to miraculously have some new Obama acronym, some new program come out that's going to be like, isn't going to happen, guys. If you haven't been paying attention, the political will of new safe housing programs is gone. We're not going to get any more. Now, with that said, I am going to be answering questions at the end of this call about what a QWR is. There were some Julie, please research these so I don't screw it up when we're answering questions, very significant changes to HAFA that we're going to be talking about at the end of this call. And I'll give you guys the URL for the Fannie Mae site again. Okay, so Collette, you are an HGTV star. And I watched your HGTV show, and you are an absolute unbelievable natural. I wouldn't have guessed in a million years you hadn't been doing broadcasting your whole life. And I know you've got some collegiate background in it, but still, wow, okay. So how did you get involved in HGTV? And the next question I'm going to ask you, maybe you can interlace them together yourself, is how are you using that for lead generation?
Sure. Well, as you alluded to, undergraduate degrees were in radio, TV, film, and speech. And I really did believe that I was going to be a television anchor until I started working in television. And the nasty little secret regarding TV is that everyone wants to work in it, so they pay slave wages until you get into the top 50 markets. And 20 years ago, there weren't 200-plus channels. It was a much different profession. So I went into sales, and from there, did my whole corporate background. And about 5 years ago, in my real estate business, I pulled my team of agents together, and we did a little goal planning session. And I told them at that time that my vision of our business was going to be to seek out opportunities to get involved with HGTV. HGTV's headquarters are less than 5 hours from Atlanta. So, and I knew that their programming was exploding. I just didn't know how to break into it. So, along with all of our other goals, that was something that I put on our goal board. And actually about 8 months later, I had got a call for a listing appointment from a client that had referred me to another client. And so I went on this listing appointment, and actually it was kind of a funny listing appointment. I told the listing agent or the seller that he was basically out of his mind because he was asking a high amount of this house, and I thought that it was about $100,000 overpriced because he had high tension wires behind his house. He had all sorts of issues with his house, but of course he thought his house was worth a lot more than what it truly was. I didn't get the listing, but he did call me back and say, I really liked your honesty. I want you to come back and be on point because I'm having this open house for design to sell. And they were shooting in the house, and he wanted me to walk through. And I walked through. Producers really liked me. At that time, they asked me to help them find homes to be featured on Design to Sell. At that time, I wasn't on-air talent. They just wanted me to find homes for them. And you bet, I blasted my entire database. And I said, hey, I'm working with HGTV. If you want your house on, they'll pay for, 3 rooms to be basically renovated. And I got 7 of my listings on there of my buyers, of my buyers and sellers because I flipped them on both sides. And from that point on, I got my foot in the door with these producers. Then the next show that came to Atlanta was My First Place, and they called me, and I had a nightmare experience with the buyer on that episode, which you can actually watch on my website. If you go to my website and click HGTV, you can watch that episode of My First Place. It was pretty funny. All you agents out there will really appreciate it because I actually had to show this man 70 properties. And I would have fired him if he wasn't on TV. But actually on TV, I sort of fire him on TV. It was pretty funny. Anyway, so then from there came Bang for Your Buck, and we started shooting these episodes last year. And I work with Vern Yip on 3 episodes. I'm shooting 2 more in Charleston and Savannah. And it's a great venue for me. They've liked me enough to hire me back. Vern and I have created a really great working relationship. We have a lot of fun on the show. And so they've hired me back. So what I do with my HGTV stuff is I just use it as a spoke, a cog in my wheel of marketing. People ask me all the time, what does this really do for your business? And honestly, it just gives me so much credibility and opportunity to talk about real estate because I blast the heck out of it. I'm a huge marketer. I send a lot of information out to past clients. I'm part of a neighborhood in Atlanta of 25,000 households strong. Everybody knows that Collette McDonald is an HGTV agent in the Atlanta market.
Well, we're shifting to talk about marketing, and I want to make sure that they're following along because, in your mind and in your world, everything's like hand in glove. But I just want the agents out there to clearly understand. All right, so she's an HGTV star. You guys understand what she's doing there. And Collette, you need to get a Facebook fan page together, and I'll put it on our blog, and then you'll get like a whole bunch of fans, and that'll help you to get your own TV show.
There you go. I actually have I have a Facebook page. It's Collette McDonald and Associates, but I think we need to rename it, Tim. So
Collette, just start a fan page. It's free on Facebook.
Okay.
And then just start Collette, McDonald HGTV, and then So in any event, now the other thing she does, and she's in a 25,000 home area in Atlanta, Georgia, and so what she's done is there's no local newspaper. This town is unincorporated. It doesn't even have a name. So a normal realtor would be like, oh, my gosh, what am I going to do? Not Collette. She put together her own, essentially, e-newsletter, and now it has attracted people to her by providing and becoming the source of information for that little geographic area. Good old-fashioned geographic farming taken to the next level. So tell me a little bit about the newsletter.
Well, I'll tell you, I believe in being involved in your community, and one of the ways that I got involved was we are in this weird little part of Atlanta that we're not part of the city. We're unincorporated. We have papers around us, and we have politicians around us, but no one is really focusing on our little neck of the woods, which, if you know Atlanta, it's North Brookhaven area. And so when about 5 years ago, I started getting involved with a civic organization, and I volunteered my time as the communications coordinator. And from that communications coordination volunteerism, I started developing an email distribution list that I would send out emails about neighborhood events. Well, it has just morphed into what I call C3, which is Colette's Community Connection. And C3 has been going out for about a year now, and it's getting a following. The other day I just got an email from one of the editors of the local newspaper saying, Collette, this is a must-read for anyone who lives in this neighborhood. Great job. I get comments from clients like my last newsletter of 2010, I put in the end of C3, bump-a-dump-a-bomb, ... for 2010. I got emails from people panicking, going, Collette, you can't stop sending these emails. And what I focus this on, guys, is I focus it on community-level interaction. It is not a hard sale, hey, here's the latest tip about, home insulation. That stuff is all valid, don't get me wrong. But what I'm trying to do is give them a value add to my services of, hey, I am the expert in this area because I know what's going on with the police. I know what's going on with our schools, our parks, anything that's happening. I've had neighbors call me when their dog got bit by an unidentified dog that they didn't know if it had rabies vaccinations. I had to send out an e-blast finding this dog so this 4-year-old child wouldn't have to go through rabies vaccinations. Jeez. So it's really bringing this community together to have a voice. And it's been, again, it is a free newsletter. It takes me a ton of time to put it together, but I get so much out of it because on the right-hand side is all me, all real estate, all my listings, and a few of my friends who, are clients. I might put an ad in there for their business. But the bulk of it is they know they can open up Colette's Community Connection and know what's happening and take a poll about what's happening at the parks. And from that, I've gotten a lot of clout with also our political division of this part of unincorporated DeKalb County, and they've actually asked me to be on the board of zoning appeals for DeKalb County, which is as big as the city of Atlanta. It's a 7-person board, and I represent my area for Board of Zoning Appeals. How else does that fit for real estate? I don't know what else you could do in county government that doesn't fit with real estate more. I mean, I'm there.
No, that would be perfect.
Making decisions.
Yeah, and you get to know you know exactly what's happening next in your community. You know the whole 9 yards from that. But
exactly.
The point is, yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, what you've done, though, and the philosophy that you've had, and you're applying it to your marketing, and again, it's a subtle difference here, guys, so I hope you're dialing into this. And what I'm hearing her say is that she didn't make this an ego piece. It wasn't me and my dog and my Cadillac and my, this is how many houses I sell, and I sell a house every 22 seconds. I sell a house faster than your heart beats, all that Mickey Mouse that is really a carryover from the bubble days. Now what she's doing is she's moving away from all of that, and then she's moving towards, here's information I know you put value on. How can I be of service to you? So, guys, I want you to kind of shift in your own minds when you're choosing a physician. Let's say I keep on going back to this reference for some reason. I guess intuitively she sort of reminds me of her in terms of the way she cares for her clients. She kind of reminds me of a good doctor. But a doctor's not going to go in there and, say, I gave out, 7,200 flu shots last year. My nearest competitor only gave out 4,400 flu shots, right? No, he's not going to go about that approach. But some sales realtor types are still locked into that mindset. But the fact is, guys, is that for the most part, owners, potential clients of yours have moved away from that. And they're looking for people like Collette, people that are making a contribution to their community, people that are truly coming from an area where they're giving a darn, people that actually have knowledge about, their community, their market, they know their stats. They know how to solve a multitude of problems, not just how to sign a buyer contract or how to sign a listing contract. You guys are really getting a sense of really what this new breed of realtors are all about, what Julie and I have been talking about for the last 4 years. Collette is the evolution of a lot of the ideas that are happening as our society shifts away from seeing houses as essentially a financial transaction and getting back to seeing homes as truly what they're meant to be, which is a place to live. And long-term, hopefully, through the power of inflation, be careful calling it appreciation, through the power of inflation, seeing homes go up in value through inflation and maybe one day having a house that's paid for. So, Collette, in terms of like, you also do other things in your community which are really, really beautiful, crafty, I would say. Tell them about your boot camps.
Okay, so again, my philosophy is giving something and getting something in return, but I am not a hard sell agent. I've done the power cores, I've done the business, here I give you 2 referrals, you have to give me 2. I'm not that type of agent. I don't like that philosophy, but I understand that when you start in the business, you just try a bunch of different things and see what sticks. I decided that wasn't for me, and one thing that I also do to help my community, just kind of stay active and be part of the community and get out there and see how we live in a beautiful part of Atlanta, but, a lot of people don't see it the way I do, so I like to influence them a little bit more, and I've been part of a boot camp for 6 years now. For the first 3 years, I was an instructor where I volunteered my time for a profit business, and it was great. It motivated me to get my butt out of bed. It's a very regimented military style of workout. You're out there, rain or shine. You're doing heavy calisthenics, heavy cross training. It's a hard workout, and I just got addicted to it personally, and so I started teaching it so I wouldn't have to pay $350 a month, and that's how much it cost. And when the downturn happened in the economy, 3 years ago, the recession hit, and I could not stomach asking my friends and my clients and my neighbors to come out and work out with me, knowing that it was going to cost them $350. It just didn't make sense. So what I started to do is I started to do it at my house. I started saying, you know what? I'm going to start doing this off my street. I live in a great area. I'm a half a mile from a park. I've got great sidewalks. I've got everything I need to do what I was just doing for a profit organization. I can do it for my friends who need help to be motivated, who need help to lose weight, who need help to know that they can have confidence in themselves, that they can do this type of workout. So we started this 3 years ago, and honestly, 60% of my business comes from this boot camp. And it's a very simple philosophy. You come, you motivate yourself by motivating others around you. You are not negative. If you sponsor somebody that comes and they're negative, not only do you get kicked out of the group, but so do they. There are expectations. And it's great motivation for me. It's great motivation for these folks. My clients come out. They love it. They stick with it. I get to yell at my clients at 5:30 in the morning to push harder, to push stronger, and they love it. I get to abuse people, and they appreciate it. So that has been a huge cog in my business because they want to give back to me, and I developed an occupations list that everyone who comes to my boot camp, and on an average I have 30 people every morning show up at my mailbox, and we have an occupations list that I have on Google Docs, and I invite everyone to put their occupation in there, ask for referrals. This is a tough time in the economy. Is your husband a builder? Does he need renovation work? I'm a real estate agent. I could really use your referrals. Who can I help that with short sales? Who can I help buy a house coming into town? Let us know. Let's help each other. And it's just become a movement. People are so addicted to this. I have people who've been here for 3 years. I have people who've been here for 2 months. I have people who've been with me for a year, but they all are drinking the Kool-Aid, and they love it, and they talk about it in the community. So not only will you see me at my school with my kids, and they'll say, hey, that's Collette McDonald. She's on HGTV. Oh, and I work out with her in the morning, and she is killer, and she's a maniac, and blah, blah, blah. There's more to it. Oh, and do you know she does this newsletter, too? And you've got to get on this newsletter. It's amazing, and blah, blah, blah. So it is just a boulder that keeps on growing, and I just keep on adding to it as it moves, and it's great. And that's what has made 2010 one of my top years, is because I kept pushing forward. I kept on moving forward. I focused on the good and paying it forward, and I got it in return.
Let me throw something in there. And obviously, guys, you can see where this gal comes from, totally from the mindset of being of service to others, totally from the mindset of what can I do to help you, how can I help you, and maybe, guys, maybe sometimes when you contribute to folks and you help people, when you give them advice, when you steer them in the right direction, maybe they don't do business with you, but who cares, right? At the end of the day, if you find yourself going through your real estate career this beautiful industry, this incredible business, this unbelievable, in our opinion, best opportunity for everyone to help others and make money because of this real estate market, guys. As soon as you have this knowledge, as soon as you know how to do it at a high level and adopt the mindset of caring and giving, you're going to find that business is not a struggle. Business is not a stress and a strain. If you find that you are stressed out, if you find that the business is not going in the direction that you want it to go, and it just feels like you're essentially carrying a gorilla around in your back, check your mindset. Where are your dominant thoughts? Are your dominant thoughts with how can I be of service to others? How can I help you? Or your dominant thoughts with, oh my gosh, what about my problems and me and how am I going to do this and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. When you find yourself focusing on yourself, when your energies are directed inwards to, what's going to happen if this seller says this to me, or what's going to happen if this happens, or if this house doesn't sell, or da-da-da-da, versus how can I be of service to others, when you focus your energy outwards being of service, guys, listen to Collette. She's a living and breathing example of it. Everything else follows suit. If you listen to her talk, guys, she's almost talking like things. And then, I was doing this newsletter, and then the next thing I know, President Obama called and he wanted me to put on the Housing Council. Who knew it? And now Branson wants me to be the first person on his space shuttle journey in, 5 years or whatever. Now, those things aren't accidental. Those things are happening because of the fact that she is in the constant motion of being of service to others. Adopt that mindset. It starts with that, guys. It's not difficult. You don't have to sit around and meditate on this. Just go out there and try to help people. So, Julie, as we were going through some of these questions with Collette today, I wrote down 3 questions that I'm going to ask her. What were you thinking about?
I was thinking, God help her competitors, honestly, because, I love your energy and enthusiasm, and I love your professionalism, and it is, unfortunately, a little bit rare to have that exact combination where you talk the talk and you walk the walk and you get yourself out there. I still have too many conversations with students that, all of these ideas that you're throwing out, and we've had a great response. People love it. Then people will say, well, that sounds too hard, or that's not just me, or whatever it is. You're just taking action, massive action on a massive scale, and whatever works out, you're closing. I love that.
And I'll tell you guys, and I want to make sure that folks who are listening to this call understand it. I mean, it hasn't always been easy for me. 2 years ago, 4 days before Christmas, my husband was laid off of work. We had to totally readjust our lifestyle as well, and how I did that is I stayed focused in my mindset. I can do it. I can get past these small hiccups in the road, and we can be stronger. It's not easy, but you have to focus on that goal. Otherwise, you'll get sucked down. We've all been there.
That's absolutely right. So, guys, let's get to some of these questions. Julie, can you come through the questions in case there's any that I don't catch?
Working on it now.
All right, so what is a QWR, guys? It's a qualified written request. Qualified written request. And what that is basically a qualified written request is what we call here at the Harris Real Estate University the nuclear option. Sorry, I can't say it without having drama. And when you're processing a short sale, now this is your last case scenario, and for some reason you know that it should be closing, the negotiator should be negotiating, and everything should be happening as it should, but for some reason it's getting stuck. Not happening like it, the stuck short sales aren't happening like they were 12 months from now, but it still happens on occasion. Ask for a QWR. Now, the QWR form for you guys who are in the short sale class is on the website, and you have to copy our QWR form, but change it to your own, put the seller's address on it and the seller's name, the obvious changes. The QW form has to be in a specific format, or they're legally allowed to ignore it. Now, here's the beautiful thing about the QWR. The QWR asks for every single document that the owner originally signed when they took out the mortgage. What happens is, and I've looked at these myself, and I had my attorney friend look at these, Suzanne Burke, and she's gone through these too, and probably 99% have RESPA violations on them. Go ahead, Julie.
So Real Estate Settlement and Procedures Act and or TILA violations, Truth in Lending Act, especially if they're the vintage loans that happened during the boom. So let me just put a caveat to this since it is called the nuclear option. We call it that to remind you that this is not to be done as standard practice on every short sale you're doing. So short sale students, if there's anyone who sent in over the webinar, what's a QWR, well, you guys should be punished somehow because we've talked about it explicitly in the short sale class with several calls that go with it, with examples and samples for you to use. So if you're in our short sale class, you have no excuse but to know how to do it and what it is. If you're not in our short sale class,
join.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's where you learn about this stuff. So I don't want to burn our whole call up on this.
But don't abuse it.
Right.
Yeah, because, different servicers, if you start becoming somewhat – now, so let's just finish the explanation of QWR, Julie. So you guys send in the form, and then legally, and they actually follow this, the servicers have to return all the documentation from the original loan to the seller. They have to mail it to them, what is it, within 2 weeks?
20 business days.
20 business days, it has to be sent. And so what that will tend to do is when a QWR is ordered, and I know this for a fact, you guys know that we work directly with Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase. We work with all the major servicers because they oftentimes will suggest agents who are uneducated get their education through HREU. Not bragging, just stating a fact. So when I talk to them about this very subject, I promise you, QWRs get everyone's attention because from the servicer's perspective, that is a red flag that requires immediate attention. Now, again, nuclear option. You don't toss it around. Don't threaten your negotiator. Don't make an enemy because most cases, frankly, I'm finding the short sales are closing faster and smoother because banks like Bank of America have really gotten the process down. Changes to HAFA, Miss Julie.
Okay, I am pulling that up, actually. Give me 20 seconds here. Okay, so HAFA, the Treasury Department eliminated some of its, shall we say, crazy, questionable, frustrating rules that we had all been dealing with and guidelines to help more home sellers actually qualify for the program. Up until now, only 661 HAFA deals went through. I know a lot of our students have been trying that, and some of those 661 did come through our students, so I don't want to totally bash this. But here's the change. Servicers are no longer required to verify a borrower's financial information or determine if the borrower's total monthly mortgage payment exceeds a 31% debt-to-income ratio. So in other words, remember before it was kind of frustrating. It seemed like it was harder to get out of the house than it was to get into it in the first place. And everybody said, well, what difference does the ratio make? Well, they've removed that requirement. However, there is still a hardship letter required.
Well, hold on. No, get it technically correct. Read right from the website. I mean, you're saying it technically correct, but the affidavit.
Right.
A hardship affidavit.
Hardship affidavit is still required, basically swearing that you're telling the truth about your hardship.
But here's the funny part. So make sure we're okay on the recording. The funny part is that they no longer have to prove their income or prove their lack of income. And the other funny part is they no longer have to provide financial things. But they have to provide a letter saying they have a hardship and it's an affidavit. I don't really understand why they're asking for an affidavit.
Don't even try to understand it. Just follow the current rules.
Right, exactly. So you guys can go to the blog and make fun of it as much as I am, but the fact is that HAFA does seem to be, again, as we've been expecting, HAFA and some of the servicers, like I know Bank of America has their own version of it, is definitely going to become the sharp end of the stick with trying to avoid foreclosures. The lenders now have acknowledged and are all moving. You guys are involved in the REO world and the short sale world. Know that your worlds are merging now and they're going to become one and the same. 2011 is going to represent a quantum shift. Guys, if you haven't figured it out yet, the world, basically, as far as we're concerned, the real estate industry, has come to accept the fact that the real estate markets are not going to bounce back anytime soon. For a long time, people were saying, well, you better buy now. Things are going to bounce back. When is the last time you heard anyone saying anything like that? Not happening anymore. Everyone realizes that this is going to be a long-term correction cycle. To Collette's point earlier, a lot of people are now just defaulting. A lot of people have given up hope with their homes reappreciating and are now doing what we call strategic short sales or strategic dispositions of their underwater asset. All right, Fannie Mae site, and here it is, guys, knowyouroptions.com. Knowyouroptions.com. That is the Fannie Mae site. They have a fantastic presentation on there called Ways Home. I did try to clip the video. It will not clip. So if you guys want to tell your sellers or your potential sellers about it, just give them the website address. It does a phenomenal job, in my opinion, of selling the sellers into not just doing a strategic walkway, but doing a short sale. Okay, so if you want further evidence the world is going short sale, There you go, Fannie Mae's own website.
I got to jump in here too, Tim.
Yes,
several of our REO students have said, how do I get access to the QWR and do all this new HAPA information?
Join short sale.
I got to tell you, join short sales, and some of you guys in that REO class, you have this whole mindset going on, I took that 2 years ago. Well, everything's changed. So, in both of those classes, as all of you guys know, the rules change on a daily basis. Where are you going to find out what they are and what to do about it? That's why we do this all day long, is bringing this kind of information to you. So when in doubt, get back into the short sale class.
Tara from Westfield, New Jersey. Oh, you've been back? Is that what you said, Collette?
I'm in both. I'm in both. I'm in REO and short sale. I love them.
I know for $97 a month, like for each class, considering what you get, and when people try this, that I just don't even understand it. I mean, cut back on the Starbucks, for God's sake. You can afford it. All right, Tara from Westfield, New Jersey. How can I be added to Collette's distribution list? In other words, she wants to be getting your neighborhood newsletter.
Awesome. Just go ahead and shoot me an email. You can actually go on my website at ColetteMcDonald.com, pull up my blog, and you can read the last email or the last newsletter, and there's a tab on there that says Join our mailing list, and you can join our mailing list. And you can also see the newsletters from the past few weeks.
Collette, I'm going to send this student question to you. I'm just going to ask you this student question from Patty Green, great agent in Ventura. See, I think our biggest obstacle is sellers' denial of the problem because sellers are listening to their friends. Yes, I know, Patty. That's ill-informed friends that unfortunately are oftentimes getting bad information from agents, and agents need to be telling the truth like Collette does about what's really happening. I do what I can by reviewing options and leaving information. What would you do, Patty, when you're running into sellers that are ill-informed? Do you try? What's your strategy on that?
We can only do what we can do. We have to be able to give them. And I actually pull a lot of information from Tim and Julie's blog, and I repost it on my blog to show people that the Wall Street Journal is saying this, CNBC's saying this, Tim's found this from this bank, Tim's found that from that bank, Julia's saying this, and I recycle what they put on their blog on our blog. And all you can do is educate them as much as you can, and if they're not ready to listen, they're not ready to listen, and you've got to move on. That's my philosophy.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. And sometimes, guys, you're going to run into these sellers who are, as you guys know, as Patty said and as Collette just said, who are in denial, and they're like, I'm going to try a loan mod, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. If you try to talk them out of going down that path, You're not only not going to get the business, but you're never going to get the business, and they're not going to trust you because they're going to think you're not operating in their best interest. So you have to say, okay, that's fine, go down that path. Now, statistically, as a loan mod, using that as an example, 75% of those don't work out. And some people are suggesting that 90% of those guys, those loan mod folks, are unfortunately going to redefault. Now, what you do, and this is when you get a request for a BPO company, you do a BPO. When you do a titanium service, if you guys are an HRC and you do a titanium order, or whatever else, if you don't get the business then, keep in contact with those people because chances are 6 months, 12 months from now, you'll get the business then. This is about building relationships and, again, being a provider of great high-level service. I hate that word service because everyone uses it, but nobody does it. But really, at the end of the day, understand that when you run into an owner who wants to explore their options or has other information, let them explore it. Move on to the next one. If they're not going to listen to you, if they're not going to play by your rules, next. That is the only way to handle it in this marketplace. So, Collette, I'll let you wrap up the call. I really appreciate your time today. I think you did a great job with the motivation. With the feedback in the webinar has been really great. So how would you like for agents out there, and there are certainly this time of year a lot of agents out there that are nervous, some of them are scared, a lot of them are excited, looking forward to 2011. What can you say to them to help motivate them, to encourage them to stay on the path?
The thing that I constantly go back in my life and my career, you always hear, do what you love what you do. Real estate is an ends to a mean. We're all out there trying to pay our bills. We want to make sure that we can keep a roof over our heads, that we stay motivated and we stay positive. I'd like to challenge everybody who's listening to this call to think about something in their life that they're looking at that they absolutely love to do. It might be working out like me. It might be running races. It might be working at a local soup kitchen. It might be whatever it is. It might be working with children or at a nursing home. Find one thing that you want to volunteer to do and create that passion around it. Focus on that. Pay it forward. Give back to something in your community. Make sure it's in your community. and you will get something out of it. If everyone on this call were to do that, I guarantee you will get business from it. You know, we talked about this earlier in the call. We talked about it yesterday. It's not about entitlement. People are going to do business with people that they like, that they respect. In our marketplace right now, we have got to be realtors that are professional. We're not Pollyannas. We're not out there saying things that we know aren't true. We're out there telling them honestly what's going on so that hopefully someday soon we will not be ranked up there on public opinion like used car salesmen.
Worse, actually, according to last year's poll. But yeah, no, that's perfect. And again, I really admire your mindset. You definitely represent, I think, the direction our industry needs to go. And Collette, Julie, and I are certainly fans of yours. And everybody dial in to the lovely Collette McDonald on HGTV, and let's help her get her own show.
Tomorrow.
That's right. Oh yeah, that's
tomorrow.
Right. You're the next. Yeah, it's on tomorrow. So tell them when.
The next show is on tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. So it's on HGTV 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. Every once in a while you'll see, I mean, if anything is going on in Atlanta, if it's a design to sell, it's probably one of my houses. But where you can actually see me on air is Bang for Your Buck, 3:30 HGTV. I'm going to take Tim's advice. I'm going to get a fan page on Facebook. Everyone become my fan. I'm pitching shows right now to HGTV. I'm thinking of going the Oprah line as well. Hopefully we'll get a show here pretty soon that makes real estate agents the professionals, and we absolutely have to change that mindset out there, and I think we can do it now.
Absolutely. I mean, we can certainly with folks like you taking a leadership position, which I truly and sincerely appreciate. So on behalf of Julie and myself and all the faculty and staff of Harris Real Estate University, Collette McDonald, thank you for being 2011's first Harris Real Estate University superstar.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Watch Collette tomorrow. See you, Collette.
Bye.
Bye.